Good evening, and thank you very much to all for being here tonight. And I did actually prepare a written speech. It's 1,400 words, and it will take about 8 minutes. So, given that we are already over the time, I'm just going to share a few points that I, so to speak, awakened to in my recent years in the United States. I'm basically from India, and I take charge as the youth leader in Soka Gakkai International, which is a lay Buddhist organization. And I deal with young men and women, mostly from the age of 13 to 35. And what I do is I just visit them and see what they're going through and able to reach to them in some way and to enable them to feel that they can create a change in their life. So this is what I do, basically, apart from working as an architect as a profession. Now, today I just want to share a few things about my life and then also to see how I view peace in my life as well. I grew up in India, and while I was growing up, I didn't know much, but things that had happened to me were so atrocious. I was sexually abused by a family member and had been going through a lot of stuff in my life. And I've attempted 2 suicides, lost my religious belief, become an atheist, and then became a nihilistic, and then finally ended up being a Buddhist. Now, the point being that later on I learned that 1 in 8 kids, male children in India, are sexually abused, and 1 in 4 of children are abused in some way. Now, of my recent experience with so many youth that I'm seeing with in the United States, every young men that I meet have some kind of issues that deal with their childhood. So in that sense, we are creating a future filled with abused children who are going to be our leaders. Wow. So in this aspect, my peace movement lies with enabling one young man or a woman to share this love with them, this unconditional love, and say, to be a enlightened witness to this person, to say that there is hope and you can change, create a change in this world. Now, this is something that I kind of recently, started believing, because I've been believing for a long time, but now that I'm having a real person that I'm talking with. So last month I met a young man who was 21 years old, and he had spent already 3 years in prison here. And as already mentioned, Virginia is one of the states that repeatedly punishes the children. Now, this person is already talking about guns and talking about joining the Navy and Army. And this is being a base. Imagine how many soldiers who are abused children going into the Army and Navy who does not feel any love, who does not feel any feelings when they put a gun on a head of another person. Wow. Now we are creating Hitlers and Stalins and Mussolini's and who not, whatever tyrants that we have seen had abused childhood. So in this aspect, how we can create change, and that change is basically by changing your own self, and that change is called the human revolution. Everything has a revolution, industrial revolution, green revolution, and in this case, it's human revolution. So as an abused child, my views were tarnished, but today I stand before you, boldly and courageously addressing my own tarnished view, and has the courage to change it, to be able to guide one more person, to say that we also have this hope within you, and you can create a change. And that for me is peace. I just want to share, out of my prepared speech, I want to share a couple of points here to kind of bring this point to life with some justification. Many of you have heard about Henry Bergson, the French philosopher. He says that he had written many works, as you might have known, matter and memory, and creative evolution, time and free will, and so on and so forth. But in his greatest work, The 2 Sources of Morality and Religion, he talks about dynamic religion, or in other words, dynamic humanism. And in this he says that he talks about impetus of love. And what it means is that it represents a leap to a higher plane of a genuinely human character. In this, Bergson argues that what is needed is the emergence of an individual who is inspired by a mystic experience that has been fully integrated into the core of her being. Such an individual will make it possible for the human spirit to emerge from the confines of a cold, closed, and private world and soar into love of humanity, a sense of community, embracing the whole of humankind. And this mystic experience is not something external. This mystic experience is an internal awakening to the truth that I have a right to live. It's as natural as a flower blossoming when the sun shines. So that kind of a natural phenomenon is what that exists within each and every one of us. And that realization is peace for me. As an architect, I work with a very large corporate company, and our biggest client is military. I'm designing explosive ordnance facilities and army hangars and so on and so forth. So recently, I've been kind of torn internally too. With this awakening, I'm talking about these kids who are going to join the Army and Navy, and I'm still encouraging in some way. And I wanted to really get involved with the United Nations and to develop or support the Millennium Development Goals. And seriously, the success or the failure of the Millennium Development Goals utterly lies on each and every one of us, how determined we are. So based on that, I was able to talk with my president and talk about my interest with the United Nations. And then he readily said that he's going to support me whatever ideas that I come up with. And recently, I applied for a volunteer job in Cameroon, Africa, where all the kids, were having lack of education. And finally, we won a project. Long story short, basically we won the project, and the company is supporting this movement now. They're building houses. Now that I'm thinking, putting this in the perspective of the human revolution, the awakening of one single person, having lived all my life in disassociation and with no feelings, with self-infliction of hurtful behaviors, out of this, I'm able to emerge victorious in some sort, and to be a human being, and to be able to help another person to also see the greatness within their life. And now a company of 500 people is behind me, backing up the same thought and idea. So a human being by nature are not violent. It's the circumstances and people with distorted views and beliefs who does not have courage to confront themselves create this kind of disunity. So there's only a handful of people who are violent, and a huge house full of people who are peaceful. We represent these people, but we could be one of this person who's awakened, but we bring the house full of people to create a change. And that for me is peace. Thank you very much for this opportunity.